Welcome to the DGTL Growth Podcast, where marketing leaders turn playbooks into pipeline. I'm Suse Barnes. Today we're talking about strategic investor and public relations with Scott Gordon, co-founder and president of Core IR. Scott, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Sue. So nice to be here.
Great. What's good in IR and PR today?
IR and PR are really booming.
Oh, good.
There are so many opportunities in IR and PR for public companies to leverage to really get their narrative and their stories out to both investors, the investing public, and kind of the public at large. So there's a lot going on. It's really interesting that in our business, we have pivoted. We started as a kind of a traditional investor relations boutique agency and have really morphed into both an investor relations agency and a public relations agency. And in doing so, now offer a full complement of engagement services for media engagement, thought leadership engagement, awards and sponsorships that companies often kind of overlook, and have seen that crossover between investor relations and public relations in ways that I think we really hadn't even envisioned. So it's really exciting to be a part of that now. As a matter of fact, our company just recently received 2 Pinnacle Awards for excellence in marketing communications for 2 of our clients, one in healthcare, which was Koya Therapeutics, and the other was Rishtech Robotics, which is a phenomenal robotics company that has these really cool robots. And both of them were leveraging our investor and public relations services, and the Pinnacle Awards were born out of that. So we're really proud. Our PR agency is about 4 years old, and to receive that kind of validation is really heartening for us.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
I see that the company's also been growing between 30 to 40% over the past couple of years. How many people do you have on your team now?
We now have 29 on the team, which is just, amazing to my partner and I, Chuck Bennett. He and I started this in 2009, where I was running a corporate communications company at that time. And we were old family friends for years and years. And so he had sent me a PowerPoint presentation and asked me if I could clean it up. So I tore it apart, put it back together, and he made some introductions and a roadshow went down. And at the end of that, he said, come to my office. I have an idea for a company. And that was how we were born. And back then the name was Core Prominence, which was my, fiddling in the garage with, a couple of words in a wordplay, corporate prominence. And we found that to be acceptable, but really obtrusive when it came to giving people our email address, because spelling that out was just such a bear. And so a few years later, we shortened that down to Core IR, and now it's Core IR, Core PR, and Core Digital, because of course the PR agency is also a digital agency, which is cool. So we now have a full complement of management team in 4 of our kind of core offerings, no pun intended. So it's investor engagement, it's capital markets advisory, full bore corporate communications, and a full PR public relations agency. And so the team is growing. The PR agency has grown, by leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. So we've added staff there, but we continue to expand in just about every one of those areas. So it's really exciting.
What do you attribute to that growth? How's it How are you
I think
making
it's
that happen?
us identifying that intersection between uh, investor and public relations. I think what we found was there was a gap in what PR agencies were doing relative to serving public companies and public companies in different market cap spaces. And, we really cater to small cap and micro cap companies. And that's been fortuitous for us from a public relations point of view because there's really a gap in, you know, uh, bigger agencies being able to service those companies with a perspective that is something that they know innately. And of course, that's something that we know innately. And so that's really been a driver for us in recognizing that clients want and need public relations services, but they need them in the context of where they live as a public company. And so that's, I think, largely what I would attribute it to. But also, we're serving non-public companies as well. And so we have varying niches in healthcare or tech. And tech covers a wide swath. It's marketing tech, it's financial tech, it's high tech. Um, and I mean, there's even tech in CPG and food services and other things like that. So it's very broad based. And so as we are growing, we're adding in people with specialties in, some of those areas. And it's really been, you know, super supportive in that sense.
Excellent. What kind of innovations are you looking forward to for the company?
So I think with the advent of AI, which is all the rage, and I think will continue to be all the rage, um, we are looking at how to captivate our own team in leveraging those tools, right? ChatGPT is a godsend for editing, for example, for generating ideas in um, number of communication related services, but it's also helpful from an investor relations perspective in learning competitive analysis, in approaching storytelling from myriad ways where, individuals bring their specialties. And I really head up the strategic development of corporate communication strategy and implementation. And so that covers everything from website copy and, overall messaging to investor messaging, investor targeting. Not all messaging fits that. It's not a one shoe size kind of thing or a one size fits all kind of thing. It's varied. And AI tools give us the opportunity to dig into different verticals and different business sectors in ways that we can be innovative. That's a really big part of it. But we also are one of the only firms that we've heard of from our clients that leverage CRM in a way that automates investor engagement activities. It provides reporting in ways that are really innovative. And so from a business process management perspective, we look to leverage technology where it fits and then try to be innovative about how to apply technology where it isn't, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, that that approach to managing client relationships, to providing services or supporting the provision of services with, a depth of capability is only enhanced by that approach to technology.
Excellent. On the CRM, is that a custom built solution or are
Well, we're a Salesforce shop,
Mhm.
but it's custom built Salesforce. And
Okay.
so there are ways to leverage that CRM in in customizable ways that fit our business. And it's a really powerful tool, but you have to harness that tool, you know? And so we've really made strides in leveraging our ability to do that.
Sure. Is that part of how you approach a new business? I'm curious, how do you get your clients? How do you find new clients?
This is a very small world that we live in the investment community. As big as it is, it's a very, very small world. We are constantly out in investor conferences as our clients are, participating in them. And there are other service providers within our universe that are providing services in tandem. That is legal counsel, for example, securities counsel is very specific, transfer agents or providers of other technology like press release services or investor relations website services, or other digital services. And then, of course, there are referral relationships that we have with, within the street. So there are, uh, a multitude of investment management service companies, investment banking service companies that, we work very closely with. And so I think we find that we don't really leverage technology for business development. It's really fostering those relationships where there's symbiotic appeal for growing those relationships by virtue of referrals. And those are referrals, outbound referrals that we're making. In a sense, we're feeding the ecosystem and the ecosystem is feeding us in that way. And it's very organic because companies that go public need investor relations. Companies, period, need public relations. And so finding the people who are supporting that and then building relationships with them in servicing these clients has been just a boon for us. And it's really been that way since our inception.
What major shifts are you seeing in investor relations and PR today?
I think that that IR companies have recognized that they need a diversity in their offerings. Digital and social 5 years ago is much different than how they're captivating audiences with digital and social now. But that hasn't come without growing pains and SEC uh, uh, attention and scrutiny to ensure that things like Regulation FD, which is kind of the guidepost for disclosures, um, isn't followed or is followed to the letter. And so we've kind of grown with that, um, as a traditional kind of, I think we started as a traditional roadshow house in a sense, and communications, of course, was a part of that, but those things have been amplified with, uh, the toolkits that public companies utilize in capital formation, in relating their story to the street and the various and varying constituencies within it. And so that's been a really big growing aspect of the business as those tools have become adopted in compliant ways. There's lots of ways that those tools are adopted in non-compliant ways. And, I see periodically companies being punished for that. And there's no real gray area there. Eventually, when companies act in non-compliant ways, they're taking risks that, threaten their business models. And so we are extremely conservative in how we approach leveraging these tools, um, as best practice, really. And so it's been a powerful focus for us, and one that I think continues to grow. Again, companies have a perception of uh, what it means to leverage public relations to serve their goals. It's almost like hiring a publicist, uh, right? And and leveraging that publicist's relationships to gain notoriety, except in this case, it's hiring a PR agency with, tentacles that spread out into that ecosphere that include both media relationships and relationships within social media that bring their story to the forefront. Another thing that we've also been doing is leveraging commercials. And, um, years ago, companies were finding that they could get some publicity in programs that weren't airing particularly in prime time and really were airing on Saturdays at 2 p.m. when the audience wasn't really there. Um, you know, and so, you know, we've found that adding that capability in terms of a creative and the production of commercials and then leveraging media buys in, major markets has been really helpful to spread the word to, the mass market, if you will, or the broader market. And so uh, that's been really well received, and I think is a growing part of our business also.
That's part of your digital offering. Is that right?
It's part of the PR agency offering.
Okay.
Digital. It's certainly leveraged through digital also. For example, you've got linear. You can do media buys where you're buying linear media time, but it's all of these outlets have digital, and so in addition to the traditional media that you go to in terms of tier one or publications, there are, a growing cadre of sources to seek placement and seek promotion in the digisphere, if you will.
In your business, what has been frustrating? Sounds like everything has been going pretty well, but what maybe has been frustrating for you?
I think early on it was frustrating to have such a strong capability, um, and face competition from sources that were um, advocating capabilities that weren't um, as deep or as capable as they represented. Um, and so I think investor relations itself gained kind of uh, a bad rap in a sense because there were a lot of bad actors doing all kinds of things and manipulating stocks and manipulating investors, and investors got hurt. And you know, I am pleased with the uh, the the advent of SEC enforcement because it's cleaned up a lot over the years, and so you know their integrity in this business is paramount. And so, our competition recognizes that too. And so that's turned into kind of a plus because it's enabled the adoption of best practices. Plus, you have organizations like the National Investor Relations Institute, the NERI folks, who are constantly innovating and constantly elevating the bar of what investor relations is. And so, you know, that was one thing that I think, we didn't want to get thrown out with the bathwater, the baby in the bathwater, the bad baby in the bathwater, I guess I could say. So, overcoming those things early on was just gaining credibility. I think our firm now has a reputation for its integrity, has a reputation for bringing it on a daily basis in ways that other firms envy in some ways. And that's been really, really rewarding um, and gratifying, to have that recognition.
Super. Which metrics are you focused on for the business?
I think one of the biggest or most important ones is in the length of time that we serve our clients. I think that's really uh, like client retention is probably the one of the bigger ones. Um, certainly as we growing our team and our capabilities and our specialties, that's something that we plan for. And as we explore what next year looks like, we're certainly looking at adopting team members with specializations in practice areas. When we started the PR agency, for example, it was kind of blanket, and now it's really turned into specialty areas in healthcare, life sciences, as I mentioned, technology and the varying aspects of it. That's only going to get deeper as we grow. And, I see practice areas expanding into other verticals. So those are things that we're really looking at deeply.
Okay. If you could solve one major challenge, wave a magic wand and solve it, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think that educating our clients, we get hired because we're specialists, and it's, I think, challenging for some of our management teams to let the reins out a little bit. So I'd like to see that more. I think that, you know, given the reins, we provide more value. And um, so we're constantly trying to educate our management teams and our clients that they can trust our guidance in ways that they may be apprehensive about, right? But when they do, they find that it's very it it's more helpful to them than when they don't. And I think the relationships that flourish because of that trust and because of the confidence that they place in us that we're going to deliver, and we deliver. You know, so if I could wave the magic wand, that would probably be it.
Do you have any sort of vision of what that might look like education wise? Do you tell stories of who has been most successful, or what didn't work so well with a different client that they might learn from, or how do you
Yeah.
think about approaching that?
We do just that, right? We
Okay.
have, uh, so the way we approach our uh, engagements are with tools, and so we have teach-ins
Okay.
is one way. So
Yeah.
just as much as we want a client to teach us about their business and about, what's special about them, we're also conducting teach-ins on best practices. We're also providing education to our team members and, support their growth in, building careers in investor relations and public relations. And so part of it is our senior management who cover the varying practice areas of our business, working closely with our clients to help guide them in the varying activities that we're helping them with. And in doing that, relating experiences that we've had with others that haven't worked, or advising them against things that aren't best practices, or, and explaining the reasons why, you know, what may seem intuitive to them is not intuitive in, carrying forward the flag for the company in ways that investors are going to perceive them. And so that's uh, a big part of it is that. And some of it is structured, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is just kind of that daily interaction that you're having with clients that helps to foster trust and credibility that, uh, builds just as much as we're trying to help elevate them to have credibility on the street, striving for that same credibility. And that comes through time, really, and just working together. And it's as experiential as it is tutelage, if you will, you know. So, but that's a really rewarding aspect of the of the industry and really of the business. It's developing close relationships with senior leaders who are visionaries. When you get a CEO who's spent his entire lifetime in a lab creating something that's, trying to treat or prevent or cure cancer or another health indication, they may not necessarily have public speaking skills, for example, right? Certainly not best practices. And so we go through training, both media training and oratory and public speaking training to get them to a point where they feel like they're mastering those skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that builds confidence and credibility and helps accomplish kind of all of those goals. So, yeah, those are some good examples.
Cool. Scott, what predictions do you have for 2026 in IR and PR?
I think that our industry continues to refine itself from an investor relations industry perspective. I think our offerings get more vertically aligned, and from a PR perspective, I think the nexus of IR and PR continues to grow, and digital, which was less mature, becomes far more mature. And I think AI plays a far bigger role in supporting those goals and those outcomes. But not just AI. I think leveraging AI within other technology tools also. So I see I see technology taking on a bigger role also, for sure.
Super. Well, I think that's great for the show. Thank you so much for your time today. It's
My
been
pleasure.
really fun learning more about your company, about Core IR and
Yeah.
what you're up to. Wish you lots of luck with the challenges of educating the clients and keeping them in line for their best interests, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything to add? Any way people can reach you if they're interested in your
Sure.
services?
Yeah, they can find us on coreir.com. That's COREIR.com. And reach out to me or my colleagues. And we're a young, growing firm, and we're anxious to speak with new partners and new clients, and certainly new team members. So, yeah, please reach out. Happy to chat.